Star Wars. It's one of LEGO's best themes and has been running since the early days. And even though it's had its moments, it's consistently always getting better. But recently I was looking over a bunch of fake leaks for a video and came across this gem that fooled everybody in the LEGO community. The reason it was so convincing is because it looked photoreal, the Qui-Gon figure was slightly edited to look like an updated version, and if I'm honest, did seem like something LEGO would do. But it got me thinking, why has LEGO never made a Force Ghost minifig? And if they were to do it, what would it look like? Looking back at the films and taking a look at every Force Ghost that's existed, unfortunately because Star Wars is so old and the technology has evolved so much, Force Ghosts from different films use different techniques which makes them look vastly different. Taking a look at Obi-Wan from Empire Strikes Back compared to Anakin from the recent Ahsoka series, and you can see that there's a big difference. Now I'm sure there is some sort of Star Wars in-universe reason of why each Force Ghost looks slightly different, but for the sake of today's argument, let's just assume that LEGO stylization would make all Force Ghosts look the same. What would they look like if they were to be done in an actual set? Now let's talk about the most obvious way of doing this, transparent minifigs. Every single person that I've talked to who's into LEGO Star Wars in any way have talked about transparent minifigures being the go-to when it comes to doing Force Ghosts out of LEGO.
Something with transparent pieces, and that's kind of the most, I don't know, kind of effective way to do it that I've seen.
I mean, there's been some translucent minifigures that they've done in the past. I think Ninjago might have had one or two. I think that's exactly what they should base it off of, and very minimal printing, not to like overwhelm the fact that it's translucent and stuff, because I think that is probably the most important part for me.
I think they get trans clear minifigure. Trans clear would be my preferred look.
Now maybe this is a hot take, but the more I think about transparent minifigures being used as Force Ghosts, the more I tend to find myself leaning away from the idea and actually thinking that it wouldn't be all that good. When that leak did come out, LEGO did put out a statement saying why they don't make Force Ghost minifigs. They basically said that they've tried it and they weren't going to do it because transparent minifigures just look slightly odd when you can see the connections for the legs and the arms going into the torso. Frankly, I don't think that matters all that much because the printing going on top of the torso and legs would cover up all of that webbing, as they say. The main reason I don't want transparent minifigures being Force Ghosts is because it would just look inaccurate. If you go back and watch all of the Star Wars films where a Force Ghost is present, the effect is actually quite simple. You first film your actor and you make them slightly transparent in post. Depending on what film you're trying to replicate will determine how blue they are and how solid they are, but the main thing that makes a Force Ghost to me is the ambient blue glow around the subject. But saying that this looks similar to this is just inaccurate in my opinion, and I think LEGO were right what they say in their statement. It would just end up looking quite cheap. Hell, I'd even argue that I'd take the shell piece over this any day. It encompasses the minifig quite nicely, it's a universal mold meaning you can put any minifigure that you want in this thing, and it does add that blue tinge to the minifigure that we do see in some of these Force Ghosts. Now the shell isn't obviously without its downsides, it's way too big, and this particular shell looks awful when you're looking at it from the side. And finally, because the piece attaches via the minifig's hands, you can't move the arms and display your minifig other than this pose. And I think I'm ignoring the biggest thing, it's a brand new element. And LEGO will always try and not make a brand new element, especially for something so specific. Well, if we can't make a brand new dedicated piece, what can we use that already exists in LEGO's part catalogue? Well, if you didn't know, LEGO have made some ghost pieces before, so why don't we start by looking there? Now, I'm obviously not talking about your classic LEGO Ghost, as this looks like it's more out of Scooby-Doo than it does Star Wars. No, what I'm talking about is a theme that have done ghosts before, but made them look more like traditional minifigures would. Turning our attention to the Harry Potter series, we have Nearly Headless Nick. Now, this minifigure is depicted in grey, and although is very transparent in the film, LEGO have opted to skip the transparency and just go for all grey. Now, there is a white glow-in-the-dark version of Nearly Headless Nick, but I don't think for this instance glow-in-the-dark would work at all. But on the positives, it just goes to show that LEGO can make a monochrome minifigure look like somebody from the film, and if they were to make a monochrome grey version of Anakin, or Obi-Wan, or Yoda, it could pass off as a Force Ghost. But Force Ghosts aren't really grey. Depending on what film you're watching, they lean more into the blue tones. But don't worry, because LEGO have also done something quite similar with their Harry Potter CMF series in Moaning Myrtle. This figure was primarily done in a sand blue colour with dark blue accents and light aqua skin. And even though again LEGO haven't done any transparency on this minifig, despite her being very see-through in the film, this minifigure still looks really decent as a ghost representation. Funnily enough, this is what most toy companies do when it comes to making toys of Force Ghosts. Transparent people are just hard to replicate in toy form, and with Force Ghosts nowadays looking more like people than they do ghosts, I think it would be harder and harder for LEGO to actually go ahead and make something that would look like a Force Ghost. Because here's the thing, if LEGO were going to make a normal looking Force Ghost, it would pretty much just look like a regular minifigure. In fact, the most recent rendition of a Force Ghost doesn't have any blue tone in there at all. So what exactly is left that we can do to try and make an accurate representation of what a Force Ghost might look like in an accurate LEGO form? Well, if you didn't know, recently LEGO have been giving normal minifigures trans blue arms and legs. The brand new Vision from Avengers Tower is a good example of this. If you look closely, the entire leg section is see-through, with a bit of printing on the top to blend the two. This potentially is one of those techniques that LEGO could do with Force Ghosts, and this could potentially fix your transparency issue. We've already seen it done quite well with the Star Wars Black series line, and if you ask me, might be the the best new potential way of making a Force Ghost minifig, but I really wanted to see what this would look like on a genuine minifig. So breaking out some 3D software, we can actually make a minifigure within Blender and see what this would look like if it was a real thing. And honestly, I think I'm swayed. If you had told me at the beginning of this video what I think the best technique for a Force Ghost is, I wouldn't be sure what to tell you. But using that same technique from the Avengers Tower, I think this technique looks pretty damn good. And not only that, it doesn't cost LEGO anything more to do this type of figure. They have all of the pieces available to them. I thought the legs being this really harsh blue color would look really off next to the brown robes, but that little bit of printing does blend the two together, and if you really wanted to, you could do side leg printing to blend it even more. I also think that incorporating some form of lighting element, like the light brick that LEGO already have, with a blue brick in front of it just to tint the color, would not only give the blue glow around the figure that we're looking for, but it would also be an awesome play feature that LEGO could put in their playsets. Now, as I have a lot more freedom in these types of programs, it's important to remember that I could have done a lot more with these. What I'm trying to go for here is what LEGO could and probably would do with the technology they have available to them right now. The only thing to do now is show it to a couple of LEGO Star Wars YouTubers to see what they think of my LEGO Force Ghost design.
Ooh,
Yo!
Okay.
that's a cool idea. I like that. That is a sick idea.
That's interesting. So like the clothes and the head are like normal, but then you got see-through legs.
That works surprisingly well. Like, I look at it and I can tell it's a Force Ghost.
I do like that because, like, looking at these reference images that you have here, I guess in my head I think more of like almost like the holograms that you see that people make. That's actually not really very accurate compared to the source material.
Yeah, no, definitely. Honestly, at first I was like, I sort of had the idea of the figure you've got on the left there as the sort of way I do it, but then the more I've looked at it, actually, the more it's grown on me fully.
Definitely with the standards that LEGO has now, I think this blends probably perfectly with the LEGO standard right now. I think this is the way they would do it, like a very, very likely way they would do it.
I'm not convinced that that's how LEGO would do it. I'm just not sure it gives off Force Ghost just to have the transparent legs and then to have such a solid block color print on the legs.
I'm not a huge fan of mixing the clear with like the solid minifigure.
I like how you still printed on the legs to sort of make the transition from the translucent to the regular fig, actually. And the more I'm looking at it, the more it's actually growing on me. I like that.
I like this. This is better than the bubble thing. This is fun with like the light feature.
I guess the top half of the figure doesn't look as much like a Force Ghost, but with that light coming at the back, that would enhance the look a lot more.
I do like the light brick. It definitely adds the element to it. It does take away a lot of the like freedom of play, which I think is something that LEGO would be kind of keen to have. Like, you would always need that figure near the light brick to give the desired effect.
I think it's LEGO Star Wars that always someone would complain, but I think overall, if you look at it objectively of what LEGO can do, I think, yeah, the majority of people would be very happy with that. Just the fact that we're getting Force Ghost would be great, and it's better than the fake leaks that we got a few years ago. So I think people wouldn't complain too much.
It doesn't matter if it was the greatest thing ever and everyone liked it, because people would always be upset. What I would say is, okay, cool. They tried something unique. That would be about it.
Yeah, it is tricky, man. It is really tricky. I just don't know if just the legs is enough for me personally.
They'll be like, oh, there had to have been a better way to do it, and there's just no perfect way to do it. And I think this is probably the best way that I've seen to both compromise like the styles that are in the movies and compromise in the fact that LEGO does not have a perfect way to do it.
And even though asking my friends was mostly positive, it solidified something that I was thinking about since the beginning of this video. And it's the reason why I called the video what I did. There is no perfect way of making a Force Ghost. Multiple different toy companies have been giving us different renditions of Force Ghost for years now. And honestly, sometimes giving us something that's inaccurate, but at least giving it to us, would sometimes be better. And although I could totally see LEGO doing this Force Ghost technique, the light brick feature for me leans way more towards them doing it than not doing it. I do completely understand people's argument for just wanting a blue minifig version. And it's actually something we discussed very in depth on these calls. If that's something you are interested in seeing, I uploaded the full interview and showcase over on my Patreon. It's the top link in the description and doesn't cost that much to see. But what I'm curious to see is your opinion in the comment section below. Did you guys like my rendition of a Force Ghost? How would you potentially do it differently? And what would you like to see from LEGO themselves? A big thank you to all my existing supporting patrons for making videos like this possible. If you're interested in extended versions of these videos, from both Tommy C Bricks and Tommy C Figs, plus the fact there's no ads and you get early content, go and check out that link in the description. People like this are really helping out things behind the scenes, and I appreciate every single one of them. I got lots of inspiration for this video from this video, so if you haven't seen it yet, it might be worth clicking the screen now to check it out. I'll see you guys over there.